In the 2015 Alberta budget, the tax credit for donating to charity was slashed from 21% to 12.75%. For donating to charities, that's a 40% decrease in a tax credit for charitable donations. Alberta, as a province, will now have one of the smallest tax credits for charitable contributors across Canada. So there's a petition that was started online called Albertans for Giving. It was started by Brad Tennant. He joins me now. He's a spokesperson for Albertans for Giving. Brad, let me start by asking you, is taxing generosity the PC Alberta way?
Well, I wouldn't think so, but according to Budget 2015, that's definitely the direction they want to go in. This seems like a measure that is so counterintuitive and so against common sense, but it's the measure that the PCs are trying to bring to people who actually give to charity throughout this province. So it's definitely disappointing. I hope they will see a better way than this, but currently this is the path that the PC party is on.
How much money do they expect to save from this, though?
Actually, 90 million after it all. So by basically slashing the incentive for Albertans to give to charity, you're saving $90 million overall.
But that's in a $48 billion budget.
Exactly. And when you're looking at a province that spends as much money, we spend per capita far more than any other province. And we spend overall, like you were saying, $48 billion. So I mean, the overall spending, when you're talking about a $90 million cut, it's puny, it's meager. It is something that the government should be far better than deciding that this is a tax increase that is in any way necessary.
It's just of all of the things, all of the ways in which they can save money, why do charitable donations? You know, I was recently looking at some recent numbers with respect to the Alberta budget, and it was clear that public sector employees enjoy a wage premium over private sector employees. So somehow public sector employees have been able to drive their wages above what the market's willing to pay. Last I saw, it was 7%. It may even be higher now. Why not start there?
I have absolutely no idea, Marissa, but I almost wish you were running in the Alberta election after hearing that. It has been insane. There are so many good areas that, you know, I think Albertans want to see fat trimmed. But I never heard from any Albertan who said, you know, what we've got to do is stop giving a tax break to people that are giving to food banks. It's absolutely counterintuitive at this point. There are so many good areas to cut and so many areas that the government is not showing leadership at this point. We're seeing that they're actually about to move into new MLA offices in the federal building. That federal building went over budget and ended up costing $400 million. So it'd be one thing if they were asking people to, you know, take a tax hike for people that are being generous. I think generous people might even understand that if we were balancing the budget and we were spending dollars responsibly. We're not seeing that. We're seeing a $5 billion deficit, which is making a lot of these people, or a lot of Albertans, angry to begin with. And we're seeing the same waste exist in the government. So the idea that this government, with this record, should be raising the taxes on people who give, it's just insane. I cannot understand it for the life of me, but it's the path that Jim Prentice and the PCs are going down.
Have you spoken to any charities that may or may not be concerned about what this would mean for their donors? You know, I wonder if the government itself has actually done any forecasts. I've reached out to PC Alberta. I have yet to hear back from them. We will update the story when in fact I do, if ever, hear back from them. But, you know, do you think they've done any forecasts on what impact this will have on charities?
If they did do any forecast, I didn't see it. I've asked in a couple ways, and I haven't seen any sort of thing like that. So as far as talking to the people on the ground, if you're going to make a cut this large, being 40%, I mean, you should be talking to a lot of people on the ground. But that's not true at all. First, we've seen on the petition a ton of people sign and give their own stories. And, you know, Albertans are generous people. Albertans give more to charity than any other province. Not that it's a competition, but Albertans here are very generous. So we do definitely see that, and it's a whole nother ballgame. It really baffles me that this is going through.
I guess what I'm wondering is, you know, is the government going to then assume the role of charities if all of a sudden a good chunk of their funding, and I think we can assume that, goes away?
Yeah, like I do not know if that is something that they are thinking when they're pushing this. All I do know at this point is it's something that's insensitive and it is something that is hurting charities. or is making worry, or is creating anxiety with charities throughout the province. There's been articles in the Calgary Herald about that, and I've heard from a lot of people who work with charities, work with nonprofits. This is also going to affect food banks. It's going to affect churches. It's going to accept faith, or kind of put an extra burden on people who give to faith groups throughout the province. So is a lot of anxiety that way.
Brad, I have to ask. Just a month ago, we saw 9 Wild Rose MLAs cross the floor, including the leader, Danielle Smith herself. Do you think we would be looking at this budget and this particular tax cut or tax reduction for charitable donations? Do you think we'd be looking at that if there was a strong opposition?
Absolutely not. I do not think that 59 tax increases, and above them all, I think that the floor crossing sort of created the mandate that he could do this through the legislature. And that being said, I cannot see, especially with how aggressive the Wild Rose was in official opposition, that they would stand by as Jim Prentice cut the tax credit by 40% for people who give to charity. Now, I would still hope that perhaps those people, especially those moving on from politics, will see the light and do the right thing and speak out against this tax increase. But I do not think that this sort of a measure, which is quite frankly extreme, could be pushed through if the Wild Rose was still there in a full-fledged official opposition.
Yeah, I think you're right. In the last few moments I have left with you, I've seen your petition climb a couple hundred signatories in the last 12 hours or so. What do you hope to accomplish by this?
You know, we're really just hoping to keep up the pressure and make sure that this tax increase doesn't go through. And in addition to that, want to show that, charitable giving is something that really affects a lot of communities throughout this province and affects a lot of people. This is a measure that I really, truly, honestly believe cannot go through. And it's not something we're just going to fight for an election. It's something that we are, building a base of people that believe this isn't right, and that no matter what the results of the election, we will continue to push this and really continue to push the idea that cutting the tax credits for people who are generous is such a bad idea that we will oppose it no matter who the government is or no matter what the legislature looks like after this. This is something that will be done simply when all parties agree that taxing people who give to charity is a bad idea. So we're just going to keep it up and we're going to keep pushing. And I would hope anybody would go to www.albertansforgiving.ca and sign the petition there. Tell your friends, share it on social media so we can actually make this an issue, get it out to enough people that we can put pressure on the government. So.
All right, well, we're waiting to hear back from the Prentice campaign, but it's charities. I don't understand how you can do this to charities. In any event, Brad, thank you for joining me.
Thank you so much, Marissa.